and welcome to the Dailies. One story dominated headlines around the world, the second anniversary of the October 7th attacks. And today we take a closer look at how Israeli, Arab, Palestinian, American and international media outlets covered this deeply significant event that altered the dynamics in the Middle East and global security debates. We'll start with Israeli media, which marked 2 years since October 7 with grief and reflection. Reports remembered the victims and retold the day's horror. Many opinion articles praised Israel's strength, but also questioned its leadership's mistakes. The coverage mixed mourning with calls for accountability. Leftist Haaretz published an investigation revealing how Benjamin Netanyahu outmaneuvered political collapse after the October 7 Hamas attacks. Netanyahu was widely blamed for the security failure and faced demands to resign, but instead he built a unity government by bringing Benny Gantz into his cabinet, restoring legitimacy. With Justice Minister Yariv Levin brokering alliances, Netanyahu diffused rebellion within Likud and manipulated loyalty through inclusion and also control. His quiet we're shooting campaign reframed criticism as unpatriotic, silencing opposition and media scrutiny. The piece shows how Netanyahu used crisis to consolidate power, turning disaster into survival. It also portrays a shrewd political survivor who transformed a moment of national outrage into a calculated return to dominance, ensuring his continued rule amid chaos. The Jerusalem Post explores how the October 7, 2023 Hamas attacks transformed Israel's defense technology landscape from shock to innovation. The analysis contends that the failure of Israel's once impenetrable Gaza border exposed over-reliance on automation and a lack of human oversight, prompting deep reform. In 2 years, the defense tech startup scene nearly doubled, driven by returning reservists eager to apply battlefield experience. Startups now focus on AI-driven threat detection and cyber defense drones interception as well, and robotic. Global investors, including Sequoia Capital, doubled down on Israeli defense ventures despite geopolitical tension. The piece highlights a strategic shift from tech-first to tech-enabled warfare, blending innovation with human adaptability, making a new era in Israel's post-crisis defense resilience. Palestinian media marked the second anniversary of October 7 and the beginning of the ongoing war in Gaza as a day of resistance and remembrance. Coverage focused on Gaza's ongoing suffering, portraying the war as part of decades of occupation and injustice. Jamal Kanj wrote in the Palestine Chronicle, framing October 7 not as an isolated attack, but as the culmination of 77 years of dispossession, siege and systematic dehumanization of Palestinians. Rejecting what he sees as the Hasbara narrative that casts Israel as the perpetual victim, Kanj argues the attack was embedded in a continuum of ethnic cleansing dating back to 1948 Nakba. Over the past 2 years, he charges Israel has pursued a premeditated genocide by destroying infrastructure, starving civilians, targeting journalists, and killing tens of thousands, including over 19,000 children. The author contends Israel meets multiple legal criteria for genocide as per the 1948 UN Convention, implicating not only Israeli leadership, but also Western governments as enablers of mass atrocity. As for Arab media, it framed the anniversary through regional and humanitarian lenses. Most outlets highlighted Gaza's devastation, Arab diplomatic frustration, while others were cautiously optimistic regarding President Trump's new peace plan. Abdulrahman Al-Rashid analyzes in Al-Sharq Al-Awsat how President Donald Trump achieved a breakthrough in the Gaza peace process, turning a stalemate into a tentative deal. Through a mix of diplomacy, pressure, and incentives, Trump persuaded Israel to accept his 20-point plan, which includes limited Palestinian Authority oversight in Gaza. He also secured cooperation from Qatar and Turkey through energy and security deals, while keeping Russia and Iran from undermining the accord. Al-Rashid credits Trump's pragmatic, transactional style, favoring negotiation over confrontation for aligning rival powers toward a shared goal. Yet he cautions that Hamas's reluctant compliance may unravel later, leaving peace fragile, and the peace frames Trump's success as a rare instance of political orchestration eclipsing military might. American media marked the day with solemn retrospectives and political analysis. Coverage focused on Israel's trauma, U.S. diplomacy, and the stalled efforts to end the Gaza war. The Wall Street Journal explores Israel's paradoxical position 2 years after the Gaza war began, militarily stronger, but politically more isolated. The analysis details how Israel's sweeping victories over Hamas, Hezbollah, and even Iran have left it the undisputed regional power. Yet, global opinion has sharply turned against it. With more than 67,000 Palestinians killed, the piece highlights a growing moral and diplomatic backlash that now divides Israel from many of its traditional allies. Western governments are recognizing Palestinian statehood, and domestic critics say Israel's leadership has overreached. The piece concludes that while Israel may have won the battlefield, it is losing the global narrative, and sobering reflection on the cost of power and isolation. Newsweek published a detailed report revealing the staggering $30 to $33 billion cost of U.S. involvement in the Gaza war and its regional spillover. Over $21 billion went directly to Israel in military aid, far above the usual annual $3.8 billion, making it the highest U.S. support level ever. The report compiled by Brown University's Cost of War project shows how U.S. strikes in Iran, Yemen, and Iraq added to the bill, contradicting promises to reduce foreign interventions. Analysts warn that the aid has fueled anti-American sentiment and raised questions about whether such spending serves U.S. interests. Public opinion has also shifted with growing opposition to further aid for Israel. The piece underscores the tension between financial cost, moral responsibility, and America's strategic choices in the Middle East. Foreign policy reflects on how early decisions by Israel, Hamas, and the United States shaped the devastating course of the Gaza war. The analysis imagines an alternate path where Israel pursued a limited operation, prioritizing hostage recovery, and continued peace talks with Saudi Arabia. Instead, driven by rage and political pressures, Israel launched an expansive war that has killed over 66,000 Palestinians and eroded its global standing. The piece argues that U.S. President Biden's early embrace, President Biden's early embrace of Israel meant to signal support backfired, giving Israel a free hand and straining Washington's influence. As Donald Trump promotes a new peace plan, the analysis concludes that while a new path may emerge, Palestinian justice and self-determination remain largely underaddressed, leaving the region's future uncertain. International media marked the second anniversary of the October 7th attacks, with many focusing on President Trump's peace plan and the current negotiations in Egypt. The Telegraph spotlights the tense showdown in Sharm el-Sheikh between Ron Dermer, Netanyahu's trusted strategist, and Khalil al-Hayya, Hamas's lead negotiator, who has survived multiple Israeli assassination attempts. They meet under Donald Trump's 20-point peace plan. Dermer, described as Bibi's brain, uses his close ties to Trump's team to shape Israel's position, while Haya faces immense pressure after losing much of his family to war. The piece also portrays a negotiation balancing politics, power, and human cost, where Israel's determination, Hamas's desperation, and Trump's ambitions converge in what could be the decisive moment of the Gaza conflict. Owen Jones delivers a fierce critique of Britain's eroding right to protest, arguing that Labour's proposed restrictions on demonstrations transform dissent from a right into a privilege. Using the government's reaction to an anti-Semitic attack as a pretext, he claims officials are silencing pro-Palestinian activism and conflating criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. Jones warns that criminalizing peaceful protests, such as proscribing group Palestine action and arresting thousands, threatens democracy itself. He situates the crackdown within a broader global trend, comparing it to US efforts to suppress similar movements. The piece ends with a stark warning: if these powers fall into the hands of future hard right leaders, Britain could face a deepening authoritarian drift and loss of fundamental freedoms. And we'll end with the French media, where the headlines were mostly focused on France's political crisis after Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu's resignation yesterday. Le Monde examines the political fallout as a result, which has thrown France into renewed instability. The in-depth explainer outlines 6 key questions: who governs during the caretaker period, how Emmanuel Macron might choose a new prime minister, and whether snap elections or even Macron's own resignation could follow. The piece explains that a caretaker government can manage only routine matters, leaving the 2026 budget in limbo until a new cabinet forms. Potential successors span the political spectrum, but Macron faces an uphill battle to rebuild consensus amid a fractured Assemblée nationale. The analysis concludes that while France's institutions ensure continuity, Lecornu's departure deepens political uncertainty and public fatigue ahead of critical budget and electoral challenges. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.